when I turned 13, I had a birthday party. It's no big deal. I mean, you know, I was just blossoming, turning into a woman. And so I remember my mom was like, no one's allowed in the rooms. Everyone needs to be outside. If you see anyone inside, you need to tell me. I was like, oh my God, Booma, you don't need to pop off. I get it, Booma, come on. I remember I saw 3 adults walk out of my room. I didn't tell my mom, but let me tell you why. Because I was like, maybe they're designing a gift for me. So the end of the day came, no surprise present came. I'm not mad. Are you mad? Because I'm happy. So we started cleaning up, and then we went to go clean my room in case. Oh, the best part is coming! There was a voodoo doll under my bed. You know, it looked exactly like me. I remember there was one needle on its left eye, another needle on its heart, and it was laying on like a ratchet green leaf. And then next to it, there was a note that said, this is all gonna be mine in cursive. So then my mom started doing research on this. After we found the voodoo doll, my mom did some research and we found out that someone was basically trying to do evil to me and harm me. Like, you know, I appreciate you counting me in. I personally, I don't want to be voodooed, but thank you. Thankfully though, we had some cameras in the house, so we were about to see who was behind this. This is the best part. We checked the cameras. And the 3 people that I saw walk out of my room, you know, they were strangers. My parents didn't invite them. They didn't know them. So what my dad did was he screenshotted the footage and then he posted it on Facebook and he was like, does anyone know who this is? So we ended up finding them, contacting them, whatever. And we found out they work for this company that does witch stuff. And you know, someone was paying them to do all of this witchery stuff on me. No, I'm fine. What about you? So we asked them, what is behind all of this? What magic are you trying to do? Who paid you?
I woke up. All of my group chats of my followers had changed their names to RIP this person. And basically, it was that this girl had passed away from a brain tumor. Immediately, my heart was like broken. And she's a huge supporter. And also, she's just a sweet child. And as a person, that's a sad thing to hear. But then, as I started asking the group chats details about it, I was saying, you know, how did you guys find out so quickly? I just talked to her like yesterday. And they were like, her mom DM'd us from her account. And that to me felt weird because I was like, well, first of all, did her mom know her password? Second of all, if this woman's daughter just passed away, is the first thing she's gonna do is get on Twitter and talk to a bunch of people she doesn't know? Something about this doesn't feel right to me. So then I opened up my DMs and I got a DM from her later that day from her mother who was saying, this is such and such's mother. As you may have heard, such and such passed away from brain tumor. And, you know, we're really sad, we're really heartbroken, but we just want to let you know that she talked about you a lot and she really cared about you and you made a big difference in her life. And at this moment, I'm like, wow, this is devastating. But then the more I read it, the more I'm like, there's a lot of typos in here. This seems like a weird thing that a mother wouldn't say. Because it ended with like, you know, even in her final days.
Story time. So this was 2 years ago and I was at school and it was a normal day until the principal went on the speaker and said, we're in lockdown, go in your closets. So we went ahead and went in the closets. We were all confused. Some people were scared. Everyone was like kind of asking the teacher what was going on and stuff. Now during this time, I wasn't asking anything or saying anything because I knew during a lockdown you don't want to say anything. So if there is someone in the school, they won't find where you are. But I was still listening to them because I was curious like everyone else. So while everyone was asking the questions, one girl stood up and said, if you're not going to say what's going on, I'm going to get out of the closet. The teacher yelled at her and told her no. And the teacher yelled loud, so whoever was in the school obviously heard. So the door opened and everyone became silent. And so basically for part 2, welcome to part 2. Okay, so the guy that came into our school was a prisoner that escaped prison. So he was like, where are you? And he stood in there for at least 10 minutes. Then we thought he left, but he was completely silent and the teacher gave us a look saying, do not talk and do not move. So we all listened to the way he looked and my best friend, the girl that stood up saying she would leave, got up and left. She thought that the guy was gone and she was going to get a counselor. So as soon as she got out of the room, we heard gunshots. As soon as the gunshots said that, I knew immediately what happened. I started crying and I thought that she was dead. The guy didn't even try to come in the room that we were in, even though he knew where we were. He immediately left knowing that he should have not shot the girl. Wait for part 3. Welcome to part 3. So as soon as the guy left, we got out of the closet and started panicking. We didn't know what to do since she was shot in the head and we knew that she wouldn't make it. So we were all freaking out and so was I, and I was crying and I just couldn't breathe right and I didn't know what to do. The speaker went off saying that the police and the ambulance were coming since the principal heard a gunshot too. So when the police came, they found the guy who was hiding in a locker, and he got contained and taken to the police office. The ambulance were here and went in the room and took her. They said with their face, saying she would not make it. That was the worst day of my life. So the ambulance took her, and about 2 days later, we weren't allowed to go to the school since the guy was still on the loose. He escaped. So we all had to stay at our homes, and I visited my friend, and I didn't know she died.
One time my mom took me to a baseball game and I asked her if I could get some cotton candy. She said no. You are already fat. I was so upset I was ready to punch her. A few minutes later a player hit the baseball and it came flying at us. I ducked and it hit my mom right in the face. I started laughing and said ha 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 ha, that's karma bitch for not buying me the cotton candy. I noticed we were on the Jumbotron, so I started shaking my juicy thick ass and screaming. The medical people helped my mom and then we got thrown out. My mom was so mad. When we were in the car I was still mad about the cotton candy thing. I saw a piece of paper and a pen and wrote help me I'm being kidnapped and held it up to the window. Like for part 2. If you haven't watched part 2, go watch it. The car behind us saw the sign I was holding up and I could see him start dialing 911. In 4 minutes the cops were driving right behind us. They used a megaphone and told my mom to pull over. They had their guns out and my mom was like, what the hell is happening? We both got out of the car and I started fake crying. They took me into their police car and brought me down to the station. I saw my mom and she was in handcuffs. Ha ha ha, the bitch got what she deserved. They ended up finding out that that was actually my mom and then a policeman said I need to go into a mental hospital. I told that fat donut-loving Pikachu-looking Donkey Kong ass to screw off. My mom ended up having to pay $5,000 for all the trouble I caused. This would have never happened if that bitch would have just bought me cotton candy. And I'd do it again. Period. So y'all remember how PE teachers used to make you run the mile in elementary school? Well boy do I have a fucking story for you. So I was out on the field running my second lap and my stomach started hurting because my fucking mom decided to buy McDonald's for breakfast. So I asked the teacher if I could go to the bathroom and that bitch ass Trump gorilla looking motherfucker said no, so I just kept running and prayed to Michael Jackson that it would go away. So I'm on my third lap and I have to fart. And on God I pulled a Nessa Barrett. So much shit came out that I could literally make a 4-course meal with it. And a chocolate fountain for dessert. I was about to fucking cry. Obviously I wasn't gonna tell my teacher that I shit myself, so I just said I felt like I was gonna throw up. So I go to the clinic literally holding my hands on my ass so nobody would see my shit. When I get to the clinic the nurse tells me to sit down, but in my head I'm like, bitch, if I sit down your chair is gonna look like the chocolate river from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I just lean on the wall until my mom comes to pick me up. When I stand up off the wall to go to the bathroom my shit is smeared on the wall and the nurse looks at it and she's like, what the fuck? Was that you? And I was like, ew, hell no, and I run to the bathroom and my whole ass had shit on it, and when my mom picked me up I started crying because she asked what smelled like dog shit and she thought she stepped in something and I had to tell her it was my ass.
This is why I never trust anybody off of Roblox. A few years ago on Roblox, when I started playing Roblox, I would join a bunch of games and friend everybody in the game. I would even join different servers to friend more people. But this one time, I joined a server and I was very interested in the game, so I didn't friend anybody in that one. But I got a friend request from a girl named Ladybug134. Her name sounded very cool at the time, in my opinion, and I accepted it. Then I left the game to start chatting with her. She started chatting with me about saying, can I make a group chat with you and my friend on Roblox? I said, sure, why not? Because I meant we're friends. Then in the group chat, I was saying hi, hello, and stuff like that, and the weird little XDs, emojis, and stuff like that. I was getting kind of confused because nobody else was talking in the chat. You will not believe what they chatted. Like for part 2. Part 2, sorry for the long wait. When I opened up the group chat, I got really nervous because it said, I know where you are. I started getting scared because it was 2 people knowing where I live. So I unfriended both of them and blocked them. I joined the same game and got another friend request from somebody. This time, the name was LadyMan256. Because in the beginning, it was Ladybug. So, I don't know. I accepted it because at the time, like I said, I thought having a lot of friends was cool. They chatted me linking my email. I got really nervous. When I clicked the email, it had pictures of me. I kept on getting spam accounts from my phone messages, and it kept on saying, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And I'm guessing it's because I blocked them. Like for part 3. Part 3 up right now. By the way, thank you for all the support. The next day, I got a call from an anonymous number. I was confused, but I still answered it. At the time, I was younger, so I didn't really notice. When I answered, it was like a robot keep on repeating, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" I got really scared and I hung up. I screenshotted the number just in case I would need it as evidence or proof, because at the time, I thought I was doing something very smart. I kept on getting the same calls that kept on saying, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" I know I did something really bad, to the point where I got so scared I had to tell my parents. I told my mom, and she didn't really believe me at first. And then I showed her the picture of the proof of the photo that had the number of the anonymous number. Then she called it. You will not believe what the anonymous number said to her. Like for part 4. Part 4. Thank you for waiting. When my mom got the number, it took a little bit for the number to answer. But then it finally answered. And the number said, "I know who you are. We've been together for a long time." I'm not sure if they meant together in a relationship or as friends, but I'm going to say as friends. I got very confused because I didn't know who it was, and I would have understood their voice if I knew them. But maybe they had some high-tech technology that changed their voice. But then the number hung up immediately and started texting my mom. It kept on saying, "I'm done with your daughter, but now I'm not done with you." I got really scared for my mom because I kind of got her into something. I didn't want to get her into anything because this would all be my fault. Like for part 5. And by the way, part 5, the last part. After the anonymous number was texting my mom, "I'm done with your daughter, but I'm not done with you," she kept on getting fake emails from stores that she liked. For example, Walmart, Old Navy, or even Fashion Nova. She clicked on the Old Navy one. Then it said put in your email and your password, and she put it in because it said if you do it, you get a free discount. Then when it was done, there was a badge on the side that had a smiley face. Then her phone immediately turned off. When she got back in her phone, my friend was calling her. It was weird because my friend was calling her, not calling me. And she asked my mom if I can come over. Then my mom told me, and I obviously said yes because we were friends. When I went over her house, we wanted to play Roblox together. When she was on there, she joined my game, but not on her real account. She joined the game as Ladybug234. And that's why I don't trust anybody off of Roblox.
The first story starts when I was 2. I don't remember it much, but my parents have told me this multiple times. We lived in this little white house. It was very old. My parents used to always hear me laughing and playing in my room with someone, but there was no one in my room. When they asked who I was talking to, I told them it was a little boy named Omar. They thought it was just an imaginary friend, but now that I think back on it, when I was 3 and 4, I did see someone. He was always very kind to me. I would play Barbies and he would play with me. He would draw me pictures. I would leave my books out for him so he could read while I was at preschool. I would tell him about my days and he would tell me about his. But things started to get really weird once my brother was born, and that is when my parents started to see him too. They believe that this is because he wanted to be the only little boy in the house. Stay tuned for part 2. Here is part 2 of the series of the little boy. When my brother was born, my parents used to sense and see the little boy as well. My mom used to feel his energy sitting in the rocking chair. My brother's mechanical toys used to just start making noise. He started to show up less and less in my room, and every time he would, he kind of scared me. He wasn't himself anymore. He was mad, angry, everything. My parents believe it's just because he wanted to be seen and he was lonely, and now that I had a little brother, I wasn't paying as much attention to the little boy. My mom would wake up to my brother crying in the middle of the night and go check on him, and she would sense something standing next to her. Weeks later, we moved out of that house due to a shooting in our backyard. My old nanny, who lived across the street, told us after we moved out, she would always see something in the window of my room. On my scary childhood stories. After my dad remarried, we moved into a blue house, and me and my stepsister shared a room. Right when we moved in, I already knew something was off about that house. It was just kind of creepy. I got weird vibes from it. Nothing really happened within the first couple months of living there until winter hit. Keep in mind, this was like during when I was 14 and 15. Me and my stepsister's room was right below the attic, and at night we used to hear footsteps up there. These weren't footsteps coming from an animal, they were more footsteps coming from heavy boots hitting the ground. I told my dad about it, and so he had an exterminator come over and check it out. When the exterminator came, he found no animals up there, and no holes in which animals could get through. But that didn't stop the footsteps every single night. My dad didn't want me and my sister going up there, so one day when he was gone, we went up there by ourselves and found some really creepy things. Stay tuned for part 2. This is part 2 of the attic series. After the exterminator came and found no animals or places where animals could get into, me and my stepsister decided to go up into the attic after my dad had left. When we went up there, it was filthy. The first thing that we noticed were hangers, and they were hanging clothes and belts from the ceiling. The weird thing is the clothing didn't look that gross, and it looked like it hadn't been up there for very long. The energy up there just felt very intense, and we wanted to get out of there right away. The footsteps didn't stop after the exterminator came or after we went up there. We believe after we went up there, we made the spirit angry because weird things started to happen. The lights in the hallway used to turn on and off all the time, even though no one was upstairs because my parents lived downstairs. There'd be footsteps in the hallway, and when we would check, no one would be there. I can't fit everything in 60 seconds, so stay tuned for part 3. This is part 3 of the attic series. One night around 2 o'clock, my brother's door slammed, take for granted he wasn't home, and then all of the lights in the entire upstairs turned off all at once. A couple seconds later, we heard this old man say hello outside of our door. We started screaming at the top of our lungs, and my dad came upstairs. He turned all the lights back on for us, and once he went back downstairs, the lights turned back off. We also used to sneak out of our windows a lot and leave them open, so when we got back, we could just climb right through, but when we come back, they would be shut. Our beds were pretty much right next to each other. There was just a little walkway in between, and if one of us would wake up in the middle of the night, we could feel a presence standing over us. The footsteps in the attic also never stopped. Comment if you want to hear more scary stories.